the neurological wiring with these behavior patterns. Now, if you've been following along, we've been diving into the ego a lot because this is what's going to provide the relevant context and understanding for why meditation is so important. Let's get into it. So, going a little deeper, if we look at this on a more spiritual level, we can understand that when we solely identify with our ego, we're actually drifting more into a more Luciferian mode of being. One of the representations that shows this is how we become a lot more likely to give in to our lowest vibrational impulses that will arise from our lower chakra centers. These can manifest as fear, anger, lust, deep frustration, or even desires for power. And over time, with enough repetition, what we're actually doing is conditioning our minds to create these endless waves of desires that are originating in our animal body. And remember that because this is driven by the ego, these desires may never end. A reminder how the ego always wants more. And then in turn, because the ego wants more, it becomes easier to cement psychologically these behavioral patterns in the mind. We're actually strengthening the neurological wiring with these behavior patterns. So if we think about the behavior from the initial trigger or impulse, to the thought, to then the emotion, and then finally the action, what we're actually doing every time we complete one of these cycles is strengthening the behavior itself. So over time, this will become stronger and more energized, and hence more ingrained into your psyche. In addition to this, it's important to understand that the ego really only knows two modes: survive or die. There's no in between. It's black or white for the ego. And this is why it can become so easy to find ourselves repeating these behavior patterns that we know don't serve our highest good. Now, let's just take a very common example. Maybe you find yourself consistently overreacting in an argument. So what's happening here is your ego has been triggered, and because it only knows survival or death, it will do what it believes is necessary in order to survive the situation. Essentially, its sole purpose is to defend itself against what it deems is threatening. So by only identifying with the ego, it's going to continue to take center stage in order to defend itself and solve the problem. So this is why you might come to notice that the same pain avoidance mechanisms in your brain will kick in every time you're faced with the same stimuli, which is what will cause the same overreaction time and time again. And the real issue here is that you never really learn the lesson. Why? By living predominantly through the ego, you won't have the awareness of self that's necessary to reflect and learn the lesson that's being shown to you about your own behavior. In essence, it's simply too painful for the ego to see and acknowledge and then accept that it has the capability of being wrong or doing something wrong. And once again, this comes back to the ego only